Hey guys, today we're going to be doing a review on another mouse. This one is going to be the Razer Naga Trinity. Have it right here, and I'm going to be, kind of doing a review about it. Bear with me 1 second. So, I initially picked up the Trinity a couple weeks ago because I was starting to get into some games that, I thought that it would come in handy, specifically with one of the uh, thumb grips that it comes with, and I also wanted to see how well it works as a regular mouse. One of the things that I kind of believe is that uh, stuff that's made for gaming should also typically be able to be used, outside of gaming, um, for like productivity and stuff, and that's something that I'm definitely going to be looking at as well. Uh, in the past, I've had pretty good experiences with Razer products, so I figured I'd give it a shot. It's normally priced around $100, which definitely puts it in a higher tier of mouse, if you will. Kind of means that it has a little bit tougher competition. Um, and the I did get it on sale, but the real question is it worth it? Is it worth the $100 that it's normally priced at? So, right out of the box, one of the first things that I noticed was the mouse itself is a little bit wider than usual. It's a bit of a thick boy, if you will. Um, it's because of right here. It's what's called a enhanced right hand grip. So when you put your hand on it, that little area is right there for your ring finger. Um, so it does kind of give you a little bit more fine control. And in all honesty, uh, I didn't know about the enhanced grip. I just kind of put my hand on it, and that's where it felt right. It was intuitive. It's not a mouse where you look at it and you go, but where does my hand go? You just you put your hand on it and it rests comfortably. I'm gonna set that down for, well, no, I'm not actually. Uh, so they did make the mouse a little bit wider than average. The length is a little bit. It's still normal. One thing I'm not a huge fan of though, if you can see right here, the back end doesn't sit flush on a surface, so you have kind of uh, a void there that can feel a little awkward, especially if you're sitting up in a chair. I've noticed it feels weirder when your hand is like this versus if you're resting back and your hand is positioned more like this. Um, it kind of makes it feel more like you have to grip it with your palm, which is not the best feeling in the world to me. But it's not too bad. The mouse itself does with the normal thumb grip right here, with the forward back. It does feel really lightweight, almost kind of cheap because it is made out of plastic. One thing I will say though is the cable, the USB cable for it, is very nice. It's, I believe, 7 foot, but it is braided, which is something that I always take into account because braided is going to last a lot longer, and I have cats and one of them likes to chew on things. Um, that said, though, if I'm paying $100 for a mouse, you know, maybe not just matte plastic. Um, the RGB lighting, which it does support, you've probably seen the light cycling. Um, it is kind of cool. It's a little underwhelming though, honestly. With this faceplate on it, out of the three, this is the only one where it does not have any type of lighting on it. Um, but it's a little bit underwhelming, but honestly, that's not why you buy a mouse. Or at least that's not why I buy a mouse. Um, the actual setup was pretty easy. You just kind of plug it in. The only thing that I wasn't a huge fan of was it does kind of try and make you install a couple of other programs, Razer Central, Synapse, and Cortex. Um, Cortex, if I remember correctly, is basically like a game launcher type of thing. It also, I might do another review on this later, but, basically it does kind of make you install a little bit of bloatware, but it's easy to get rid of. It's not difficult to uninstall or anything like that. Now, the Trinity part of the name, because it is the Naga Trinity, is because it comes with a total of 3 thumb plates. So it has the one that's on there normally. Let me just pop that off. It is actually really easy to install and uninstall the thumb grips. There's the side, and you can see it has a couple of spots right there and right there for magnets. So if you take one of the others, it let me show you. It just pops right on there. That is really nice, I will admit. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of. I really should turn my phone sound off before I do these. But I've been playing a lot of Dawn of War lately, so there's that. That said, this is the faceplate that I used most commonly. It's just the regular one with the forward and back. The rubber part on it isn't bad. It's not overly sticky. It's also not slippery, but one thing I'm not a huge fan of is it's lined going lengthwise. So it's nice to kind of do that, but it makes it harder to slide your thumbs up to do that. And it also honestly kind of collects dirt and dead skin pretty quickly. It's an unfortunate reality of gaming, but it happens. Now the second one that came with it, the second grip, has basically the numbers 1 through 7 around a middle rubbery piece. This one is backlit with RGB lighting that you can set to work with everything else. The weird thing though is the numbers go 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7. So, not sure why. It's a little weird to me, but whatever. You get pretty used to it, plus you can always remap the keys to whatever. These are also the same as pushing the actual number keys on your keyboard, but you can remap them however you want. The only downside, like I mentioned before, the thumb grip, same thing. There's also not really a comfortable place to rest your thumb in there where it doesn't feel like you're about to push something. If you kind of try and lean it back, your thumb's going to be resting on the 6 or 7. The backlighting is cool, but again, kind of dead skin cells. Sorry. The buttons themselves don't feel great. They just kind of feel like they were stuck there. I have had some problems with this one also registering button pushes sometimes, but it's kind of rare. But the thumb grip is really weird, and the fact that it's made so that you can more easily slide your thumb forward and backward, but harder to do these. It makes it really easy to push 1, 2, 6, or 7, but 3, 4, and 5, it's a little bit more difficult. Personally, I would have preferred like a diamond plate type of feel for the rubber, or not rubber at all. But what I usually use this for is FPS games where I'm playing support. You can remap the button so that, primary weapon, secondary weapon, support, multiple if you have, depending on which game you're playing, basically. But like I said, you can always remap that, and it is a cool idea. Like I'm not knocking that. It is a cool idea. Now, the third one, which again these are hot swappable, which is also a point in its favor. Um, you, as you can see, you can just bam, and you're done. Now the third one, actually makes the weight of the mouse feel better. Um, but the third one is definitely the most interesting, and it's the one that kind of made me go, what? And it's this one. Now, that's 12 buttons on there. Just, same as on there, 1 through 9, like on the keyboard. No 0, but 10, 11, and 12. So that means that on this mouse right now, there are, I believe, 17 buttons. 17 buttons on a mouse. I have 5 fingers. 17 buttons. That's more than 3 buttons per finger. Just let that sink in. Now that said, it does actually feel a lot nicer as far as weight. And I like that this, as you can see, they have everything done sequentially. Not sure how well it's going to pick up, but it's also... Oh no. It's also kind of ergonomically placed, which is nice. This actually does feel decent when you're, holding your thumb on it. You don't have to push down crazy hard to push button, but there's enough resistance that you're not gonna just accidentally use it with this one, whereas with the Circle 7 thumb grip, I'm gonna call it the Circle 7, because it's 1 through 7 and it's a circle, so there you go. That one I do kind of feel like I'm gonna accidentally push a button now and again. Let me see. Now, the weird thing is, getting used to this did take a minute, because no matter what, you are still resting your finger on buttons, and you are going to be conscious of that fact. However, this keypad, the learning curve does kind of get mitigated by how useful it is. If you play a lot of like MOBAs or MMOs or anything, you're probably thinking to yourself right now, ooh, I could do a lot with that. And you're right, you can. You absolutely can. Which is really nice, honestly. I like it a lot. I like the design of this one, and it almost feels like this should have been just it. Like, if they had made just this a mouse, and they'd priced it a little bit cheaper, I would have no problem with it. However, on a day-to-day thing, this is too much. If I'm just, daily using it, I don't want all of that. But it is RGB capable, and with this one you can actually kind of see some cool effects. But overall, I really like this mouse. Not gonna lie to you. It is very lightweight, even if it does kind of feel a little cheap now and again. It's still a legitimately nice mouse, and it is a good performer. You can customize all of the settings on it. I'm a big fan of the 2 DPI switches, one for switching it up, one for down, just because in games I play a lot of FPS games, that does come in really handy, as just being able to switch it out nice and quick. And in some games, depending on which role you play, whether it's support, assault, whatever terms you have for it, tank, DPS, healer, if you need to switch during a game and you have a different setup on a different mouse thumb pad, you can really quickly just pop one on, off, pop it back on, and you're good to go. Like, that actually is really cool. However, I really don't like the plastic design of it. It doesn't feel flimsy, but it does feel cheap. And that's not something that I would expect in a mouse that's normally priced at $100. Normally, if you pay that much for a mouse, you expect something that feels like it's going to last a long time. Now, the utility of this mouse, though, is off the charts. That said, no RGB support for the main used thumbstick. Like, this is what I use just day to day. And I'm really not a fan that they just put on some cheap plastic buttons and didn't really do anything else. That, not a fan of. I do really like the cable. I don't like the bloatware. But overall, it's a really solid mouse. If you get this mouse, I honestly don't think you're going to be disappointed. And I think that depending on the type of games you play, you might actually notice after you get used to it, you might actually notice a difference in your performance. Legitimately a good mouse. However, for the price, I really can't recommend it. If you can find it on sale for mid-60s, sure, go for it. This is an awesome mouse, don't get me wrong. But it does feel like you're kind of missing out for the money. In all honesty, I would have loved to see a little bag, like a drawstring sack or something, that you could store the other two thumb pieces in. As it is, there's not a place for me to put them, so I've had to kind of scramble and find them before, which isn't awesome. And it's something cheap that you could have just thrown in on a $100 mouse. It just kind of feels like you should have done that. Well, that said, great mouse. Just for the money, and not so sure. If you can find it for cheaper though, definitely pull the trigger. It is a good mouse. Razer does make good products. And with that, we're all done. So until next time, Moon Mike out.